boys and girls, it's Miss Truitt here, and it's our last week of school. Just have 3 more days left, and we are finishing up our BCSD distance learning packet for 3rd grade. And today we are going to just go over a couple problems. I've gone over a lot of these number line problems, and I really need you to practice. So we are labeling the fractions between 0 and 1 on the number line. So I'm going to do number 1, and I'm going to have you work on number 2 on your own. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So number 1, I see there are 1, 2, 3 little tick marks after the 1. So this first tick mark would be 1 jump, the second tick mark would be 2 jumps, and the third tick mark would be 3 jumps. And I see that to be true because the fraction that represents 1 is 3 over 3. So that means there are 3 spaces, and we're all the way over 3. So let's go ahead and mark our unit fractions. That's what we usually do first. So I mark the unit fractions by using a bracket, and each of these sections represents one part of the whole. So there are 1, 2, 3 parts of this whole number line, okay? And each of those fractions represents a third. I'm going to just write it below because I don't have a lot of space here. So that represents a third, this represents 1/3, and this represents a third for each of these sections. Now, when I go to label, however, it says label the fractions between. I'm going to have to erase these because they're going to be in the wrong spot there. So let me go ahead and move them up here. So we have 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. There we go. So now every time I jump 1 out of a total of 3 times. So this is my first jump, 1 out of 3 jumps. Okay, I'm jumping again, another jump. So 1 plus 1 is 2 out of a total of 3 jumps. And then my third jump would be 3 out of 3, which is equal to 1. So each of these jumps is equal to 1/3. And each time I jump, my numerator or top number increases by 1. And my bottom number, the denominator, stays the same. Remember, it continues staying the same even after we get past this 1. So then the next jump would be 4/3, and the next jump would be 5/3, and the next jump would be 6/3. And 6/3 would be equivalent to 2, because that's 3 goes into 6 2 times. So we talked even more beyond this. So I feel like you guys can go on and do number 2 on your own. All right, number 3 through 6, it says write the fraction that is represented by each point. These are the points on the number line. So there's A, B, C, and D. We are going to have to write the fraction that represents A, B, C, and D. And so point A, first thing I need to do, just like I talked about up here, that denominator stays the same when I go out past 2, and I can tell, well, no, you know what, this one actually doesn't. I was thinking it went out past 2, but this is still just 1. I see that denominator is 8 and the numerator is 8. So there are 8 total jumps, and out, and then this would be 8 out of 8 because I'm on number 1. So every time I jump, it's out of 8. So this is 1 jump out of 8, so that's 1/8. This is 2 jumps, so that's 2/8. 3 would be 3/8. 4 is already done for us, 4/8, that's right in the center. 5 is 5/8. 6 is 6/8. And 7 is 7/8. So each time I jump, my numerator increases by 1. My denominator always stays the same, even if I go out past 1. So let's pretend we did. Let's pretend we went out past 1, and we had another number here. This would be 9/8, 10/8, 11/8, 12/8, 13/8, 14 eighths, 15 eighths, and one more would be 16 eighths. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I go out another 8, this 16 eighths, what I was trying to tell you before, let's challenge some of you. This is like 16 divided by 8, and we know how to do that. We've been doing division for quite a while. How many 8s go into 16? So this is 8, 16. So 2 8s go into 16. So this is equivalent to 2. 16 divided by 8, or 16 eighths, is like 2. So see how the denominator stays the same. Once I get past 1, it just continues out 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 all the way across. But the numerator increases by 1. So I just wanted to review that with you. So point A, we can label these now. Point A is 1/8. Point C is 6/8. Point D is 7/8. And point B is 3/8. However, I think I put a 4 there. Not sure. I was thinking of 4 next, and I went ahead and did that. Sometimes I do that. My brain just jumps ahead. All right, so you're going to go on and you're going to do number 7 on your own. Jamal spent 3/4 of his allowance, or 3/4. Remember, we can write that different ways. We can say 3/4. We can say 3/4. Or we can write it as a fraction. So we can say it any of those 3 ways. Of his allowance, that's the money he earned from doing chores. On the number line, label the fraction that represents the part that Jamal spent. So I can tell there are 4 out of 4 sections here, and I want you to label the 3/4 on this number line. So go ahead and do those 2 problems on your own. And then I really want you to focus on this math task on your own as well. I did a lot of those problems with you, but I'm going to start number 1 with you. I will read 2 and 3, and I'd like you to continue these on your own. Mark and label the points. Points are the little dots that we're labeling on the number line to show where each fraction is. The dot represents the fraction. It says 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4 on the number line, and I feel like we already did. This one actually matches up with number 2 over here for you, so this is going to help you. So one thing I need to realize is that when I get to 4/4, I'm actually at 1. So really I only have to make 3 lines here, and I need to make sure they're evenly spaced out. So I need to kind of think where those lines are going to go. No, not too bad. This one's, I think, a little bit over from where it should be. All right, so once I get those 3 lines on there, remember each of these is 1. If I draw a fraction bar here, fraction bar went a little too far out there. Oh, okay. So if I draw the fraction bars here, these are all parts of a whole. So I have 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts. Each of these parts equals 1/4. The reason I know that is because there are a total of 4/4. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 4 parts. So now I can just go ahead and label. This first line would be 1/4. This next line would be 2/4. Third line would be 3/4, and the final line would be 4/4 or 1. So now I'm going to have you mark and label the point 2/3 on this number line. You need to remember what 1 represents. What number over what number is going to equal 1 if your fraction you're looking at is 2/3. Okay? Think about what we did here. We had to put our fourths down, and it said to label and mark all of these on the number line, and it went to 4/4. 4/4 was 1. So what would 1 be here using this fraction? This is what I know. It says be as exact as possible. Okay, I tried to be as exact as possible here. Remember, I had to erase and move my line over a little bit. It's okay if you're a little off. All right, number 3, mark and label the points 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5 on the number line. Ooh, be as exact as possible. Well, I really want to challenge you on this one. So I have to think like these bottom numbers are not the same. So I'm going to have to find 1/2. Think about where 1/2 is. If I cut something directly in half, where would that be? 1/3, I have to think where, if I was to break this up into thirds, where would that be? If I was to break this up into fourths, where would that fall? And if I was to break this line up into fifths. So I'll start this one with you. Half is actually pretty easy. I can eyeball it. Half is about right in the middle. So I can go ahead and label my half. I said I wasn't going to do another one, but I'm looking at this one and thinking, wow, it's a little challenging. I'm going to get you started on it. Now thirds, so I had to divide this into 2 sections, 1, 2, that's where half is. Thirds, I have to divide it up into 3, so now I have to think 1, 2, well, my third would be here, 3. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. So a third would be about 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Third would be about right here. See how tricky that is, boys and girls? 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Okay, now fourths. Now you have to think of this number line as being 4 sections, and you might even want to make separate number lines to make it easier for you. So I want you to think, if I was to divide this up into 4 sections, where would the fourth fit? Okay, that would mean there are 3 lines I'm adding here. This would be my 4th line. Okay, and the same thing with fifths. Divide your number line up. Think about if I was to put 4 lines on here and this would be my 5th line, where would the 1/5 fit? And what I want you to notice about this is the smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction is. So a half is much larger than a third. So that's going to give you a hint that a 4th and a 5th are smaller than a third, so they're going to have to be somewhere over here. So continue labeling, boys and girls, and I hope this helped. Please ask me any questions you might have in Class Dojo, and we're going to have a really fun week. We have flip grids and all kinds of fun things planned this week. Crazy hair day for our last day of school. I'm really excited. So I'm looking forward to seeing you on Google Meets this week as well, and I hope you have a wonderful week, boys and girls.